Okay, hi. My name is Fabiano Pires, and I'll be talking about the development of the development of web development, and it's basically the evolution of web design and how things were before and where are we moving towards now. I created a basic timeline. It's very simple, very condensed to show this 30 years of web design. And one thing that we're going to notice is that most of the concepts and ideas, they are just improved or adapt throughout history. And we still use most of them nowadays in some way or the other. In the 80s, there was no GUI, so all the screens were basically black. And design was made by symbols and tabulation. And to enforce the idea that designs only adapts and don't really go away, we still use that same thing today in our terminals when we are developing. In 1991, the HTML came. And the idea was, it became the standard markup language for creating web pages. And back then it was just text-based with inline links and single columns. And a good example is the first web page that I think everybody knows, or most of the people know this page. 1995, the tables came into place. And they were basically simulating, they came with HTML 2.0, and they were basically simulating newspapers. And the idea was that web browsers now could display images. The structure of the web pages were made with tables and tables within tables. And what the magic about it was that you could vertically align things and you could have pictures in it. You could have multiple columns, and width could be measuring percentages now, not only pixels. And that was a big thing back then. And then also was the birth of the block design that we know now, that came from newspapers actually, but we still use that everything is divided by rectangles. Another concept that came with the tables were the slicing design, where the designers will provide the artwork and it was up for the developer to figure out how to convert that into a web page. And that was when the grudge for front end start to show up, because tables were really fragile. If you need to add one new row, it could break your entire table. You'd maybe have to restructure everything again. And it was really painful. In the late 1995, JavaScript show up to help all the HTML limitations. And in the beginning, it was just giving simple page interactions like pop-ups, for example. And only in moving a little bit forward, like in the 2000s, that JavaScript brought more advancements to web design with drop-down menus, forms, and especially user-created content like blogs and photo collections that we use today, like what Facebook is, what Twitter is, and just adapt. This is just a fun fact, because I don't know if you guys remember in the late 90s and early 2000s, all pages had page counters. And that was a thing, I don't know why. In 1996 was the Flash became popular. And it came to break all the limitations that we had. So you could do any shapes, you could use animations, you could use any fonts that you want, you could use sound, later you could use video in your website. And the downsides to it was, obviously you needed a Flash plugin to run those pages. The loading times could be very long, because most of the websites will load the whole website as soon as you enter it. And there was a lot of power, processing power. And this is just a simple example that I created just to show up that you could have any shapes, animations, and sounds. And the idea of the concept of splash pages came into the web design. And here are some examples of those that I got it from Google. Just very ugly compared to what we have today. In 1998, CSS was born. Wait, let me see. Yeah, that's right. And the main goal of CSS was separate the content from the presentation. And in the beginning, it was very buggy, and most of the browsers would take a long time to adapt to that new concept. And only in 1999, when CSS3 arrived, that since it was divided by different modules, that it was a big break for CSS. And what I mean by modules, because CSS was not released completely. For example, CSS Animations was only published in 2009, and Media Queries was only in 2012. This is just an example of the structure of a CSS declaration works. In 2009, one thing that I didn't talk about Flash, actually. Flash started to decay in 2007 when the first iPhone came out, because Apple decided not to support Flash, and so people starting to try to find alternatives to all the thousands and thousands of Flash websites that were there. The solution that the designers came up with was the grid system, and mostly the 12 column layout. And back then we had two different websites, was the mobile version and the desktop version. Yeah, that's it. In 2010, we started working with responsive design. And if you guys remember what I just said, that Media Queries only came in 2012. So just the start of responsive design started in 2010. And the idea here was you have different layouts for the exact same content. You didn't have to have the mobile side and the desktop side. And the job of the designers were bigger now because they have to create multiple layouts, and the developers will have to think about how to optimize those layouts and how to use semantics to create those. And this is just the many numbers of different screens that we have today. Also, front-end frameworks became popular, and Bootstrap is the most popular by all of them by far. And also we have JavaScript frameworks and single-page applications, and Vue, the model controller view, or MVC. Also starting to happen, we had Ember, Angular, Backbones, and Knockout, that the idea of you don't have to refresh the page or go to another part to get a new information. And so there was a lot of data bindings and to deal with that. And 2014, and since 2014 to now and to the future, we have web components, we have flat boxes. And the main idea of for the future, the main concept with design and web design for the future is flexibility and control. CSS has new units now with the viewport width and viewport height that will measure the device size. Flexbox improved over the block model because now you can easily manipulate Flexbox. I'm a big fan of Flexbox over Bootstrap, for example. The web components is also a new concept that extend HTML and its functionality. You can create custom elements, imports, you can do templates. And because we are learning about React, and React is I think a big feature, framework of the future or something. I'm talking about also with flexibility and control of React that can render. That's basically a interface JavaScript framework that you can render parts of and components into one page without refreshing, and just reinforcing the single page application idea in an easier way than just multiple data bindings in your HTML. And that's it. And I just use this picture at the end just to say that in 2012, we switched from all the bevel and emboss 3D to flat design. That was a big jump into visual design overall, not only for web design. And that's it. Thank you.